Today we are reading from another passage of In Love at Ease, Everyday Spirituality with Pramukh Swami. And for those listening on another platform, today is ASMR Sunday, so normally I'm whispering, but I'll raise my voice for this reading. Today we're in the third chapter called Being Eyeless. That's I, ego, then I, the one that sees. This is an interesting section. It's called His Last Words, Achieve with Humility. That morning in the Himalayas, detailed at the beginning of this chapter, forced me to fumble with these questions in my mind. And though I never had the opportunity to speak to my guru about them afterwards, I did receive the answers the last time I met him. Swamishri explained the difference between a lowercase I and a capital I. To strive for excellence and individuality without a sense of arrogance and inflated sense of self-worth. He encouraged me to stand firm, but be willing to bend and kneel. It was a reminder of what he said to me in Mumbai in 2010. Even in silence, he was looking out for me, teaching me and walking with me on my journey. It was the last time I saw my guru before he passed away on the 13th of August 2016. Pramukh Swami Maharaj spent the good portion of his final years in Saranpur, Gujarat. He had spent the last 7 decades carrying the message of bhakti, loving devotion, from doorstep to doorstep, and now the world was finally coming to him in this small village of approximately 2,000 people. Professor Raymond Williams, one of the foremost scholars of the Swaminarayan community, and I were 2 of the more recent arrivals. Pardon me, had to cough and take a drink. We had come to offer our thanks to His Holiness for the support and access given to us by the senior sadhus for the academic volume we co-edited called Swaminarayan Hinduism, Tradition, Adaptation, Identity in Oxford, 2016. The scorching sun had set for the night, summer sun in fact, and we were grateful for it. There were a few hundred sadhus and a few thousand bhaktas, these are monks and devotees, gathered around the courtyard behind Swamishri's residence. Though we had held inauguration events for the book at Columbia University in New York and MS University in Baroda, for me, this was the moment when I felt I had arrived. I was going to speak in front of a community that I was raised in and that I had studied. I was going to do so in front of my guru and mentor. Pride, joy, independence, happiness, a pinch of egotism, and the ambition to prove myself were all overflowing in my heart that evening. Professor Williams was much calmer. He had a wealth of experience and had spent many such moments with His Holiness since the 1970s. We watched the senior sadhus inaugurate the book inside the glass cabin, and then it was our turn to approach Swamishri. Professor Williams and I walked up to the glass cabin along with our colleague from Oxford University Press. Swamishri blessed us with a gesture and a faint smile. As we started to walk away, I noticed Swamishri's hand moving up and down. I did not know what he was signaling until his personal attendant, Narayan Charandas Swami, he suggested that I sit down there in front of the class. I did not think twice. I knew that it would be one of my last opportunities to gaze at my guru. I sat down cross-legged with my hands folded and my eyes intent on observing my guru for gestures, signals, and telling smiles. Anything. Swamishri's hands were moving again in an upward direction. Narayan Charandas Swami and I tried to make sense of his intentionally silent gestures. The attendant asked me to kneel rather than sit on the floor. I sat up on my knees with my hands still folded. It makes perfect sense now. Swamishri would often instruct Narayan Charandas Swami to bring a chair for me when we met in private. I would always vehemently decline, and he would insist with equal vigor. And Narayan Charandas Swami would walk out of the room shaking his head, knowing that this was a routine exchange between the guru and his disciple. This was a continuation of that moment. Swamishri looked at me intently as I settled on my knees and eventually stopped waving his hands. His instructive silence spoke to me for the next 90 seconds. Yogi, hands folded and always willing to kneel, but not resting flat on the floor. Life is a balance. Submit to God and Guru. Assist those around you, but have an identity of your own. It is important to achieve, excel, and grow, while not expecting to be praised and celebrated for it. Be known, but do not want to be known. Think of a blade of grass. It stands tall and proud, but bends when the floodwaters flow. It survives. Those who stand tall, proud, and unwilling to bend are uprooted. There is no moment of arrival. It stunts our growth. Keep growing and do not expect appreciation. It is this mindset that will set you apart from those who will eventually land on their backs. You own nothing. You have nothing. You want nothing. You are not that which you think you are. You are the Atman, and the Atman has no external identity, no ego. Thinking in this manner will set you free. Aham shunyata, being eyeless, is the path to the top. Lay low and be raised by others. It is important to have a bold identity, but with a small, lowercase I. I had heard my guru speak about humility and being eyeless my whole life, but today was the first time I heard it in my heart. Today there were no words, just his eyes. I think we're close to finishing this chapter, so I'll just read these last few pages. Really just a page and a little few sentences. Professor Williams and I left for New Delhi the next morning for an event at the India International Center, chaired by the late Padma Vibhushan Professor Kapila Vatsyayan, and later flew back to Ahmedabad for the final book event at BAPS Sri Swaminarayan Mandir in Shahibagh. Close to 12,000 people had gathered in the Sabha Hall for the weekly Sunday Sabha. Sangha. Hey, it's our weekly Sunday Sangha too. And the inauguration of the book. I spoke of and sang Premanand Swami's Bhakti poetry from the volume. The stage was lined with scholars of history and literature from around the region. I never imagined that I would share a stage with the Honorable Governor of Gujarat, O.P. Kohli, a former educator and scholar of literature, Raghuvir Chowdhury, an eminent novelist and literateur, Dr. Makrand Mehta, and others. I was walking back to my seat after my presentation when I noticed that Raghuvir Chowdhury had stood up. I went to bow to him and he said, "Hug, do not bow. You have earned the right today." The governor broke protocol to shake my hand, and Dr. Makrand Mehta moved over to make room for me on the sofa. "Young man, you do not speak and sing. You bellow and roar. Good for you." I was still in shock after I sat down, and just for a moment, I again thought that I had arrived. The instructive audience with my guru in Sarangpur seemed to fade into a distant memory. I shook myself out of that eye high. I love that. An eye high. A few minutes passed, and Anand Swarupta Swami, the Mahant of Swaminarayan Akshardham, Gandhinagar, was asked to felicitate the authors and contributors in the traditional Indian style with a shawl. I walked over to the soft-spoken senior sadhu and bowed. My guru's lessons from Sarangpur were returning to me. He placed the shawl on my shoulders and whispered, "May many more be worn, Yogi, yet each one will add weight." A responsibility. With success and achievement comes responsibility. Keep bowing, and the weight will never crush you. The revered sadhu said to me what my guru's silent eyes had conveyed the week before. Swamishri taught me the balance between humility and confidence, reverence and aspiration, as the most outward expression of being eyeless. To conclude this chapter, Yogi has written, "The difference between the big capital I and the small lowercase I is the difference between standing, kneeling, and sitting. It is the difference between appreciating, accepting, and arriving." Swamishri reminded me to accomplish with humility, for that is the key to bearing the weight of success without being crushed. He never forgot, and never let others forget either. And this is perhaps why Swamishri, for his bold identity and all his notable accomplishments, was always willing, to bow, bend, and be indifferent, and give credit to God, Guru, and others. He was a das, a servant. His small lowercase I always left room for others to walk with and alongside him, regardless of their pace and stride. His love and humility allowed him to embrace all. Thus we conclude our reading for now, as well as Chapter 3 on being eyeless. These are big chapters. 3 chapters down, and we're most of the way through the book now. Thank you for listening,